We move over to the Kraken here, and before we were able to get in today, stopped by T-Mobile Park, where you can see some of the graphics going up around the ballpark ahead of the Winter Classic coming up on New Year's Day. The rink is currently being built starting today, actually. Funny timing. Ahead of the New Year's Eve event, the outdoor game could be outdoor, obviously, depending on the weather here. The roof might be on at T-Mobile Park as it was this morning. But no, I mean, obviously, anticipation is building. They just released a menu of some of the food items that will be there that day. There will be a fan zone outside of the Lumen Field North parking lot that will open after the Seahawks game on the 31st. There's a bunch of stuff that will take place. There's already been events that have been happening around the city for this, so it was kind of fun to see the graphics at the ballpark, even though it was under some rain. So we get into the past week of games for the Kraken as they finished off a 6-game homestand. The past 3 games, very encouraging. We'll start with this 4-0 win over the Florida Panthers, a shutout win that would help them snap an 8-game losing streak. Our player of the game, obviously, I mentioned the shutout, has to go to Joey Decord. 24 saves, obviously a complete save percentage. His first NHL shutout. Could have gone with forward Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, as you can see in our photo of the game by Rio Giancarlo. Just an excellent game from Seattle to snap an 8-game losing streak, get on the board first, snapping an 8-game streak of not being able to score first. Kyler Yamamoto gets on the board. He scores twice, so you get 3 goals from he scored first. You get 2 goals from the fourth line there. Generally, Seattle plays great on this goal. And in the photo here by Rio, Riker Evans recorded his first NHL point. So an excellent game for the Kraken against a great Florida team. A statement to go out, shut them out, be able to snap your losing streak and get back on track. They were able to continue things rolling when Chicago came to town. Now, obviously, Chicago wasn't expected to be a great talent coming in. They're currently a little bit banged up and missing some impact players, such as former Seattle Thunderbird Kevin Korchinski. But regardless, the Kraken needed to take care of business, and they did with a 7-1 victory over Chicago. Our player of the game for it, Oliver Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand, 1 goal, 2 assists, a 3-point night for Oliver. A 2+- and 2 shots. Could have gone again with Joey Decord. He had another strong night. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare also had a strong night. Kyler Yamamoto had 2 goals in this one. Fourth line with 3 goals, continuing to make an impact. As you can see, Bellemare and Decord celebrating in this photo by Nate Koppelman. Just an excellent game. I mean, you took care of business. You were expected to, and it was nice to see them do so. You head into the final game of that homestand, though, against the Kings, and the Kings have been excellent all season long. It's a tough Pacific Division opponent. You're only able to get the 1 point out of it. Seattle falls 2-3 in the shootout. Our player of the game, defenseman Adam Larson, 1 goal, 1+- and 2 shots, as he was appearing in his 300th consecutive game in the NHL. Tonight, he is preparing to appear in his 800th career NHL game. But before we get to that, our photo of the game here by Liz Walter, this photo of Oliver Bjorkstrand with the game-tying goal late into the third period on a power play. Excellent shot there by Liz. Could have gone with Oliver as our player of the game as well, but tough one here. I mean, for a lot of reasons, Seattle could have potentially not gotten any points at all. Took some really poorly timed penalties, including one in overtime that gave the Kings a power play. But thanks to Joey Decord in net and the rest of the kill, Seattle was able to avoid that, send it to a shootout that went 9 rounds. Unfortunately, Seattle falls there, but does get the loser point and has recorded at least a point in the past 3 games. Our player of the week, goaltender Joey Decord. Over the last 3 games, 81 saves in total, 3 goals allowed over the course of those 3 games. I mean, it's pretty good. And a .964 save percentage, which is including his first career NHL shutout, has made 4 straight starts and appeared in the last 5 games for Seattle after Philip Grubauer went down in the game against Tampa Bay with a lower body injury. It's unidentified technically right now, but you have to think it's a lower body injury considering how he reacted. But I guess, you might not want to speculate, so that's fair. But Great performance from Joey. I talked about it earlier into the season. I was a little bit skeptical of if he could handle this sort of workload at the NHL level, and he's been rock solid all season long for the Kraken. So it's hard for me to complain about him. Should we get? Mm, I feel like well, normally we don't do injury news right after the games, but considering the sort of injuries that Seattle's dealing with, I think it's important to add context before we talk about the past week. So, December 13th, in a report from Elliot Friedman, says that on it's still being determined, but Seattle is bracing for the possibility of Philip Grubauer's absence being a long one, which is not great. On the next day, on the 14th, Haxall confirmed to us media that Grubauer is considered week to week, which isn't great. The next day, the team plays for Jaden Schwartz on long-term injured reserve. He was already on injured reserve, but this move takes him off the salary cap for the Kraken, and means that Schwartz will be out for an extended period of time. He will miss the Winter Classic. On the 16th of the morning skate of the 16th of that Kings game, forward Jordan Eberle was considered day-to-day with a lower body injury. So that's three main starters there that are out for an extended period of time, and that's not including Andre Burakovsky as well. So all in all, considering that 3-game stretch, considering the sort of injuries that the team is dealing with, and an acquisition that we'll talk about when we get to team-related news, I'm happy with this past week. I mean, it's been a struggle of a season for Seattle. They really haven't gotten much puck luck. When they've covered one hole of the boat that's been sinking, another one's opened up. And when they fix the next hole, that same one that they were just covering opens back up. The struggles have been there, and they haven't gotten much help, from the hockey gods, from the puck itself, getting the right bounces. They've been doing a lot of good work. They've been good in several areas, but it's like whenever they work to improve an area that's been a deficient one for them, anything else that's been good for them seems to, break. So it's been tough for the Kraken this season. They've dealt with the injuries as well. You haven't had Andre Burakovsky for a good amount of the year. Jaden Schwartz, one of your top point getters throughout the early part of the season, has been out. Your starting goaltender, Philip Grubauer, who's played excellent this season, dealing with an injury as well now, and I don't want to say likely, might miss the Winter Classic. It's been tough. It's been really tough, and there have been calls for major change. There have been calls to fire Dave Haxtell. There have been calls to make trades. I've always thought that was a little extreme. Going into last week's episode, I thought maybe it made sense now, but considering that, you got a statement win over Florida, you were able to take care of business against Chicago, you get that 1 point in a game you should not have been in against the Kings, you feel a little bit good. You feel a little bit better about that. Jordan Eberle was taking morning skate this ahead of tonight's game against Dallas, so you feel a little bit better about that. But all in all, and hoping that you get Jordan Eberle back, Andre Burakovsky, the morning of the Kings game, was skating and getting in some decently intense work. You feel a little bit better, and especially the way that Joey Decourt has been playing, I have to feel comfortable, with Joey in net. So I'm encouraged by it. The upcoming stretch isn't going to be easy as we approach the winter break here, and then if you obviously got all of the festive sort of news and attention that comes with the Winter Classic, but feeling better about the progress that Seattle has made, and how good they've looked for over the course of the past 3 games, mostly 2.5 games, because again, that Kings game was kind of rough, but certainly encouraged by the way that the Kraken are going, and hopefully that they're able to keep this sort of thing up, because again, you're helping dig yourself out of it. You're 5th in the division right now, but if you're able to string some wins together, you can certainly climb pretty fast. You're not in the playoff position right now, but again, happy and encouraged with the signs that this team is showing right now. So we'll get into team-related news in terms of the future and the youth of this organization. On December 13th, we found out that forward Carson Rakoff, draft pick this season, was named to Canada's World Junior Championship roster. Forward Jagger Fergus and Ty Nelson were cut. On the 15th, in some paper transactions, the team recalled forward Shane Wright from the AHL, reassigned forward Ty Cartier to AHL. And I say paper transaction, all this was, Ty did not go to Coachella Valley. Shane did not come up. With Jaden Schwartz going on long-term IR, the Kraken wanted to maximize the amount of money they'd be able to get while he's on IR, long-term IR. So they called up Shane, who's got the bigger cap hit than Ty Cartier. Made a move that we'll talk about here in a second. And then, both of those guys swapped in another roster move. So neither of those guys went anywhere. It was just on paper so that they could get a little bit more cap flexibility, considering the fact that with all these injuries, with calling guys up, the Kraken have been pretty tight when it comes to the cap space. Also on the 15th, the team reassigned forward Marian Sudanic to the AHL Coachella Valley Firebirds. And then shortly after all of that, when we were warned that these were just paper transactions, nothing else was happening, the team traded for veteran forward Tomasz Tatar. Tatar, 1 goal, 8 assists, and 27 games for the Avalanche this season. He's played in 810 career regular season games across 5 NHL teams and scored at least 20 goals in a season 7 times in his career. In exchange for Tatar, Colorado received Seattle's 5th-round pick next year. He did play in the game against the Kings. He arrived in Seattle at midnight ahead of the Kings game and did play that night. So pretty eventful game for him. You got to understand the context of him getting in late that night, trying to fit into a new team and learn his teammates and a new scheme. Didn't look bad. I mean, he didn't have a big impact moment, but certainly held his own and didn't look like he was a sort of negative on this roster. So it's going to be, as I mentioned, it's going to be a tough upcoming stretch for the Kraken, but considering what we saw over the course of the past 3 games, hopefully getting Jordan Eberle back tonight, looking like we might get Andre Burakovsky back later into the month. Certainly happy with the sort of progress that we're seeing from this Kraken team. So as they sit at a 10-win, 14-loss, 8 overtime loss record that pins them at 28 points. The next schedule ahead this week for the Kraken, December 18th, tonight, against the Dallas Stars in Dallas with a 5 p.m. Pacific time puck drop. All of these games are on Root Sports and ESPN Plus / NHL Network, unless mentioned. Tonight's game is on Root Sports and on NHL Network, so that one's a little different. But if you're in the Root Sports area, then you won't necessarily mind it. After that game against the Stars, the Kraken will head down to LA to play the Kings on December 20th with a 7:00 puck drop. So they'll play the Kings twice in a span of 3 games. And lastly, the Kraken will wrap up the week with another Pacific Division matchup just up in Anaheim when they battle the Ducks on Saturday, December 23rd, with a 5:00 puck drop against Anaheim. So not an easy week at all. Dallas and LA are really good. The Ducks have some talent there and have surprised some teams this season, so I wouldn't really rest my laurels against any of those teams.